This is the House of Arkham. Grim Tales from the Fog. Tome 22, Anguish. The Boy and the Rabbits. Starts out with a picture of a barn. Looks like a little boy playing with some rabbits. And then a very scary-looking man holding a scythe behind the boy with the rabbits.
The Boy and the Rabbits, 1. Long ago and far away, two brothers traveled the land collecting folk legends and fairy tales. Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm were esteemed professors of literature who were always open to expanding their collection of stories. At least, Wilhelm was. Jacob, on the other hand, was quite content with their current collection, so that when they started hearing tales about a mysterious black fog, he argued against leaving the comfort of the university for what he was sure was just superstitious tavern talk. But Wilhelm was intrigued. Wilhelm wanted to know more about these mysterious creatures and people that appeared and disappeared in the fog. Why did this strange fog suddenly appear? How could it do the things village folk claimed it could do? Was it from another world, as some believed?
Another dimension.
Despite Jacob's protests to keep him safe, Wilhelm gathered his saddlebag, mounted his horse, and promised to return with more stories to add to their already impressive collection of cautionary tales. Jacob grumbled that Wilhelm would end up becoming a cautionary tale. He accused his little brother of trying to escape his academic responsibilities. Wilhelm argued it was the opposite. It was academic responsibility that compelled him. And when Wilhelm still wouldn't listen to reason, Jacob reminded him of their promise as children. Though they were very different, they had done everything together. Wilhelm had said, "We will not leave each other," and Jacob had said, "Never so long as we live."
Aw.
Wilhelm accused Jacob of being overdramatic, like a character in a fairy tale. They would always be close, and one little adventure wouldn't change that. Besides, he assured his older brother that a short separation would be good for the heart. He added that these stories from the fog had captured his curiosity, and that it wasn't a matter of want, but of need.
Of need?
He simply needed to know more.
Obsession.
The tales seemed different, yet similar, and linked by a mysterious black fog. Wilhelm couldn't understand why Jacob didn't share his enthusiasm for what was possibly the very source of inspiration itself. "The source of tragedy," Jacob grumbled, accusing his brother of letting his imagination get the better of him. Wilhelm laughed and told his brother to quit worrying about him, and that he'd be back in less than a month with more stories for their collection.
They keep saying
But
that.
a month passed, and Wilhelm didn't return.
Oh no.
And when months turned into a year, Jacob grew weak and morose, with the thought of never seeing his younger brother again. Just when he was about to give up hope, an old man approached him outside his home with Wilhelm's horse and saddlebag. The old man explained that he had found the abandoned horse wandering aimlessly through the black forest. Jacob paid the old man a few gold coins for his troubles. Then with great urgency, he pulled out the notebook and reviewed the tales Wilhelm had collected. Each tale had pages of notes on people and places, and here and there, he found random theories about what this mysterious black fog could be, according to village folk. Determined to see his brother again, Jacob mounted his black horse and began toward the place where Wilhelm had transcribed his first story. And as he journeyed into the dusk, he imagined Wilhelm sitting on the horse behind him, recounting the tale of the boy and the rabbits.
Oh man. Then we get a picture of the boy being traumatized by the guy slaughtering the rabbits. Why is he slaughtering the rabbits?
The Boy and the Rabbits, 2. There was once a boy who was often ridiculed by his stepfather for spending all his time with rabbits he had raised with his father, his real father.
Not the stepfather.
The rabbits were all the boy had left of his father, who had one day fallen sick and walked into the woods and never returned. The rabbits reminded the boy of happier days. One day, while the boy played with his rabbits in a wooden enclosure, the stepfather shouted for him. He yelled like the end of the world and accused the boy of being a sloth, swearing those rabbits were wasting all his time. The stepfather had spent the whole day harvesting wheat while the boy played with those rabbits. Those damn rabbits. Drunk with liquor and rage, the stepfather stormed into the enclosure and yelled with a voice like thunder. The boy screamed for him to stop scaring the rabbits. At this, the cruel stepfather laughed maliciously, raised his scythe, and cut through the rabbits like chaff.
No!
Covered in blood and gore, the stepfather returned to the field as the boy tried without success to put all the bits and parts back together, hoping to maybe save one of his rabbits. But it was hopeless, and he soon collapsed with a shuddering cry.
That's tragic. That's terrible. And let me guess. Then the entity uses his suffering. The entity feeds off the suffering.
The Boy and the Rabbits, 3. In the midst of his grief, a strange, silky black fog seeped across the ground and into the enclosure, and the evil one, looking like a gentle old man, entered, asking the boy what had happened. The boy explained what had happened, and the evil one said he could help him if he so wished. All he had to do was ask. With trembling lips, the boy begged for his rabbits back, begged for justice, begged for his stepfather to get his just deserts. The evil one grinned and handed him a small leather pouch. He told the boy to pile up all the rabbit lumps and spread the pouch's contents over the bloodiest parts. Then the evil one walked out of the small enclosure, telling the boy he would never have to worry about losing his rabbits again. The boy then placed the parts in a pile and emptied the strange white powder over the bloodiest flesh and fur. Suddenly, shrieks sounded from the severed heads of the rabbits as hundreds of insects and worms emerged from the ground as if they had been summoned.
Ugh.
The insects and worms moved through the mound of flesh and infused the pieces of rabbit with a kind of supernatural energy. Then the insects and worms disappeared beneath the fur and flesh, and the severed heads shrieked louder and louder. The boy staggered backward, clasping his ears with his hands, staring at the horror with mingled shock and disbelief.
He created a monstrosity. Oh, now the guy doesn't look so bad, huh? As he's looking at this monster.
The Boy and the Rabbits, 4. It wasn't long before a massive, rabbit-like creature rose from the bubbling muck. The boy collapsed in horror as the giant creature, made of severed pieces of rabbit, chittering insects, and wiggling worms, loomed before him. The monstrosity stared down at the boy through its deep red eyes for a long moment. Then it turned from the silent and motionless boy and squeezed through the door, almost bringing the enclosure down as the door frame trembled and cracked under the pressure. The boy stared into the moonlit darkness for what seemed like forever. He could still hear the bubbling, hissing sound of the creature's skin outside. He only blinked when he heard his stepfather's agonizing cries in the distance. He jerked nervously as screams of terror reached him and echoed around the enclosure. Then, the world lapsed into silence. And the boy stood slowly, slumbered out as if in a dream, and saw the giant rabbit holding his stepfather's head in one of its claws. What happened next, no one really knows. Some say the creature killed the boy. Others say the boy and the creature went to live together in the forest. And still others say they walked into the black fog and were never seen again.
The monster going and killing the stepfather, bringing the head to the boy. I think they went into the fog.
The Boy and the Rabbits, 5. Jacob dismounted his horse and inspected the enclosure where the rabbits had been slaughtered. He inspected the cracked door frame and then returned outside and searched the ground. To his disbelief, he soon found a massive footprint of the creature his brother had described as the Ravage. Jacob studied the massive footprint for a long while and figured it was at least 10 times the size of his foot. Then, feeling a sudden chill, he turned to face the forest's edge, looking for signs of the black fog. But he saw nothing, and sighing deeply whispered, "Wilhelm, what a strange tale you've entangled us in." Then he mounted his horse and began his journey to the village where Wilhelm had discovered his second story.
Man. So Jacob and Wilhelm are storytellers. Wilhelm goes off to find more stories despite Jacob's pleas. And they find the story of the boy and the rabbits. That's pretty intense. These are good. These are good. This is Tome 22, Anguish, The House of Arkham, Grimm Tales from the Fog, the Grimm brothers.